I ran the clinic 3 levels down from the transit plaza, in a stretch of tunnel that used to carry freight before the quake took the surface line out. Nobody called it a hospital. It didn't deserve the word. 4 cots, a water boiler, a cabinet of donated supplies that never quite matched what the manifest said should be there. I called it the underhall, because everyone needed a name for the place that patched them up, and mine was as good as any. Harrow's Reach had been swallowing refugees for 2 years by then, ever since the outer settlements folded and the roads north closed. The directorate ran the intake, clean uniforms, cleaner ledgers, a scanner at every checkpoint that read the small chit sewn into your collar, and told the system exactly who you were and where you were meant to be standing. Accounted for, that was the word they used, over and over, on every bulletin. Every soul in Harrow's Reach, accounted for. She came in on a supply cart under a tarp of water purification filters, half frozen, no chit at all. The runner who brought her didn't explain and I didn't ask. That was the arrangement. I peeled back the tarp and found a girl no higher than my hip, skin the color of river water with faint threads of light running under it like veins, brightening and dimming with her breath. Elune, I guessed, from the far coast settlements, though I'd only ever read about them. Her ears came to soft points. Her eyes were too large for her face, in the way that made you want to promise her things you had no right to promise. She didn't cry. She watched me with the flat, careful attention of someone who had already learned that crying didn't change what happened next. I'd worked the underhaul for 6 years by then. I'd pulled shrapnel out of settlers, set the bones of dockhands who'd fallen wrong, held the hands of people who didn't make it through the night, and told their families whatever softened it. None of that prepared me for the particular weight of a small alien girl asleep against my shoulder, her breathing shallow, her light veins flickering like something guttering in wind. I'd seen plenty of people arrive in Harrow's Reach with nothing. I had never seen one arrive with nothing and no name attached to the nothing. No ledger line, no chit, no record anywhere in the system that she had ever existed at all. I called her Sohn, because it was the first sound she made, over and over, low in her throat, and I never learned if it was her name or a word for something she'd lost. I fed her broth. I found her a cot in the back, behind the supply shelf, where the scanner mounted at the tunnel mouth couldn't reach, even if someone thought to point it that far. I told myself it was temporary. I told myself that for 4 months. The runner who'd carried her in came back twice more that first month, thinner each time, and told me in pieces what I hadn't asked for. A transport out of the coastal settlements, hid in the crossing, half its manifest lost to the water before it ever reached a checkpoint. Sohn had been folded into a filter crate by someone who didn't make it off the transport themselves. Nobody knew a name for that someone either. I stopped asking after the second visit. Some deaths you just carry forward instead of trying to trace back to their source. The sweeps came twice a year, when the registrars did their full accounting, walking every level, matching every face to a name, folding the unlisted into transports bound for the resettlement processing centers upriver, where I understood, without ever being told directly, that small unlisted things did not tend to stay small unlisted things for long. Nobody used the word taken. They used the word regularized. I kept her fed. I kept her quiet during the sweeps, in the crawl space behind the water boiler, her light veins dimmed to nothing, her hand in mine so tight it left a mark. I taught her to count in the human tongue and she taught me, in gestures, that where she came from you didn't point at the sky when you meant home. You touched your own collarbone. I understood that before I understood almost anything else about her. She learned to fix the boiler's pressure valve before she learned to read. She sat at my elbow while I stitched wounds and handed me the right instrument before I asked for it. Small fingers steady, in a way that unsettled the adult patients more than it should have. Some of them flinched the first time they saw her. The light under her skin, the ears, the eyes that never blinked quite the way ours did. And I watched her learn to read that flinch the way she'd learned everything else, without complaint, filing it away like one more fact about the world she'd have to work around. I built her a shelf of her own behind the water boiler, low enough for her to reach, and she filled it with things she found in the tunnels. A bent length of copper wire she'd twisted into the shape of a bird, a smooth stone from the drainage channel, a scrap of tarp the exact blue of the sea she said she remembered, though I was never sure if she remembered it or had only decided to. She kept nothing that could be traced to anyone. I understood, without either of us saying it, that she'd learned that lesson somewhere on that crossing, long before she'd learned mine. She was, by then, simply mine to keep, in the only sense the word had ever meant anything to me. Not owned, just held, the way you hold a flame you don't want to go out. The registrar who found her was young, new to the post, thorough in the particular way of someone still trying to prove the uniform fit him. His name was Feld. He came through on an unscheduled walkthrough, 3 weeks ahead of the posted sweep, running a hand scanner along every wall out of some misplaced diligence, and the crawlspace door didn't sit quite flush the way it should have. He found her light before he found her. A thin blue seam under the doorframe, pulsing with her breath, because she'd fallen asleep, and no one had taught her fear stayed awake even when she didn't. I came around the shelf with a suture kit still in my hand, and found him crouched at the door, scanner raised, the girl blinking up at him with that same flat, careful watchfulness she'd given me the first night. "Unregistered minor," he said, more to his own report than to me. "You understand the protocol." I understood the protocol. I understood it the way you understand a debt collector understands a ledger, perfectly, and without a shred of anything that mattered. "She's mine," I said. "She's been here since the winter transports. Paperwork's in the backlog, same as half this level." He looked at me, the way you look at a man you already know is lying, and then he looked at her, and something in his face, some crack in the thoroughness, hesitated. I watched him do the arithmetic every young official does eventually, the rule, against the thing in front of him. He raised the scanner anyway. Protocol didn't care about his face. I put my hand over the lens. "Step back, sir." Flat. Not a threat yet. "I can't do that." "You can," I said, "and you will, or I put this scanner down that shaft behind you, and you explain to your superiors why your equipment fell down a maintenance well on an unscheduled walkthrough nobody authorized. It wasn't a large thing, what I did next. I didn't strike him. I didn't need to. I took the scanner out of his hand while he was still deciding whether the arithmetic had an answer, and I opened the maintenance grate at his heel, and I let 2 years of directorate hardware go down into the dark where it belonged. The look on his face wasn't fear. It was the look of a man watching a rule turn out to be smaller than he'd been told. "That'll be a report," he said, quieter now. "Write it," I said. "Write that the equipment malfunctioned. Write that there was nothing here worth a second trip. Write whatever keeps you employed, Feld, and don't come back down this corridor again." He looked at her one more time, small, silent, her light steadying now that the danger had a shape she could watch instead of one she had to guess at, and something in him chose, the way I'd chosen 4 months earlier without ever deciding to. He left. He didn't file the report I expected. The sweep 3 weeks later skipped our level entirely, some clerical note about structural access issues that I never asked about and never will. She's older now, tall enough that the crawl space wouldn't hold her, and she still touches her collarbone when she means home, except now she means the underhaul when she does it, and she means me. I never got her real name. I never needed it. Some nights I still think about the scanner going down that shaft, the small clatter of it hitting bottom, the sound of a rule breaking exactly once, exactly where it needed to. The record still says every child in Harrow's Reach was accounted for that year. It's the only lie I've ever been proud of.